So here at level 3, what we're looking at is how do we diffuse the conflict? How do we get to a situation where we can prevent the conflict from escalating and indeed try and stop it starting in the first place? Well, let's have a quick look at that challenge that we've all got. Here's a scenario where a colleague comes to you and complains to you about a supplier they're dealing with. And in that box at the top is a big load of a complaint that they dump on you. And they are just so frustrated. They say the supplier just doesn't want to listen. They say they've never had to fill in so many forms for health and safety. They've had no accidents. There's no way they'd want to do any more paperwork. It's so frustrating. Your colleague is unloading, right? And below that are 4 possible responses. Now, I know that you probably wouldn't give any of those responses, but if you look at the one that's closest to what you might give, in number 1, a question is the response, right? So what exactly is the form filling time is needed? Number 2, quite a lot of empathy. Number 3, forget it, ignore them. Let's do something else. Number 4, I suggest you escalate it. This will be a recommendation response. And as you see on the screen there, what I put is IECR, the information response, the empathy response, the critical response, and the recommendation response, which responses we give at different times to information that we hear from others. The question is, what is it that we need to be able to do to diffuse conflict? And well, you can see where we're heading with this. Firstly, we don't want critical listening. That's why I put it in red there for us. We do want recommendation, information, and empathy listening, but you've probably experienced a lot of conflict arising from people who are very strong recommenders. You say something, they hear it, and very quickly they come back with what they think you should do about it. That actually generates conflict more than it makes it go away. Information listening can be irritating too, in the sense that if you are in a difficult situation, you don't want constant questions about it, and that itself can cause conflict. And of course, what we're saying is all those 3 green ones are critical, but in what way are they critical? Well, you probably guessed it. To start to deal with a conflict, the first line is the empathy listening. That's the first thing we need to do. And the question is why? And it's because people are in a red, blue, or green, or yellow mode. The reds urgently want to do something. The greens want to bring people together. And empathy listening is simply empathizing with that starting position. So the red, we have no time. We need to make a quick decision. The important thing to say is, yeah, you're right. I understand that. So this is what I recommend we do in order to get a quick decision. For the greens, we need to talk together to people. We need to consult. Absolutely. You're right. I understand that. You're giving empathy listening. Why? So that the blues, the reds, the greens, the yellows start to believe that you get where they're coming from. Then we can move into logic. So empathy listening starts to diffuse. We then can move to information listening to ask some questions, and recommendation listening to begin to give some suggestions. But it starts with that empathy. Even if you are so frustrated with the other person, it's empathizing with the position they're in at that time. And once they are empathized with, then they can begin to move on to, well, they understand me. So now we can begin to talk about the information itself. But people are looking for understanding as the first port of call. So empathy listening is the first thing that we do.